Yeah, I'm
That's the way I
excited.
like it, though. Yeah, so much good energy in the room. All right, real quick, just start with your name, who you're with, and what you
Sure.
do.
Sure. I'm Jason Haynes with Pannoni Associates, an East Coast engineering consulting firm. I'm the survey division manager for the Philadelphia corporate office and the reality capture director for the company.
Nice. So there's a lot of stuff in this room that you're
Reality
very
capture
interested in.
director.
Yes.
Love that
Yeah.
title.
Yeah. Well, that's new. Reality
Is this
capture,
your
yeah.
first time coming to this conference?
No, this is actually my third HEXAGON. The first two I went to one in 2015
Okay.
and then one in 2018. And then COVID, kind of took
Yeah.
a break for a little while. And actually, I'm excited to be able to speak at this one here too.
Nice.
What are you presenting on?
Using reality capture and digital twins for historic preservation of
Nice.
a 100-year-old building in Pennsylvania, where we had confined space and we had a lot of problems with access issues, and the roof was collapsing on the building. Wow. The client needed a lot of information from the roof areas and stuff. So combining two different types of drones, two different types of scanners, and then traditional survey methodology, bringing it all together. So.
Wow. So talk about reality capture and digital twins. I mean, these are two things that have been talked about for quite some time, but it seems like right now, that discussion's at a fever pitch, right? What's going on in that world of things?
It's exciting because we're able to take reality that we see around us, everything that we see, and make it digital to the point where the designs are much more accurate, your returns and your what do I want to say? The change orders that come in from your construction projects, from your design teams, are much, much less because of your reality capture being more effective. Being able to take the world around you and make it digital gives you the wide opportunity for a lot of different applications, whether it's in your design, whether it's in your historic preservation, being able to preserve the history of the world around us, especially in the Philadelphia area where I am. There's so much history.
Yep.
And so the application of that and reality capture, the technology with the scanners and the drones and everything is changing so quickly that we're able to apply these in much different areas, going into confined spaces to where we don't have to put humans in harm's way. So we're safer, and we're putting the instrumentation into these places to be able to get the information we need. So it's safer, it's faster, it's more accurate, and it's just making the whole design and construction process much, much better.
Talk a little bit more about, you pulled in 5, you said, data sets from 5 different.
Yep.
I'm sure it just all snapped together like,
like a puzzle.
Yeah. So everything. I come from a survey background, so I am a licensed surveyor in 2 different states, and running the survey department for the Philadelphia office. My background, where I come from, is accuracy first. Everything has to be accurate, and so we start with good survey methodologies. Right? You've got your closed loop traverses around. You're setting good targeting. You've got enough good solid control to be able to tie all of these different pieces together. So we used a P50 for the exterior portions, P50 utilizing its traverse function, because there were some areas of the site that were really narrow, and so we couldn't have traditional targeting for scanners. So we were able to traverse with it, as well as the P50 having it be a mechanical plummet. So it is a true leveled data set. Instead of it being a digital plummet, it's a mechanical plummet. And then the long range portions of it. It has that much longer range than some of the other scanners. So we used that for the exterior areas. Then we used traditional total stations, robotic total stations, to bring control into the building itself. And we use an RTC 360 for all of our interiors. Our RTC 360 is normally our workhorse because it's just so versatile. A lot of times where we would traditionally put out a P series, or before that, even the C10. I started scanning back with the HDS 3000, those old chunky ones, if you remember those. You had to have like a desk and a generator and a laptop and everything. But the RTC 360, it's so fast. It collects so much good, rich information. Even though it is shorter range, it's just so much faster to pick up the scanner and move it again and set it up again to gather that information. So we had about 300 setups side of the building itself. It was a 280,000 square foot warehouse building with confined space, 5 different levels of the building itself, high ceilings. It's one of those structures where there's so much infrastructure, there's so much structural elements. You know, you've got some old wood structural elements that in the past 100+ years that this building's been in service, some of that wood is starting to deform and twist. And how are you going to document that otherwise, right?
Yeah.
You know, traditional methodologies of having a man lift and a tape measure just don't work in those instances.
Yeah.
And so you have to have some other ways to do it. And so we use the RTC on the inside, and then the control that we set on the exterior that we use the P50, that control was also used with our drone. So we put drones in the air to be able to gather all the roof information because the roof was caving in. So it wasn't safe for us to go on the roof. So you had to use a drone to get it. So we used the same control data sets from the scans as part of the control for the drone, and then everything snapped right in together.
Sounds easy.
Easy button.
Easy button. Yeah. The biggest takeaway I have from what you just said, and I think it's really cool, is you use different tools to do this job, right? And there are so many different ways to collect data, you know, in today's world. And talk about the importance of knowing the limitations of all of these tools and the process of making sure that you're picking the right tool for that portion of that project.
Yeah, one of the things that I like to talk about as I go from office to office and group to talk about reality capture, even within Pinoni, I like to talk about how there's different tools in the toolbox. You know, I've got hammers and screwdrivers. Both of them drive hard metal objects into wood, but I'm not going to use a hammer to drive a screw, right? Right tool for the right job.
I mean, you could.
You definitely could.
You break it and it would take a while, but
yeah, it'd probably mess up the project.
Yeah,
the processor
right.
wouldn't be the same thing. But you want to be able to use the right tool for the right job. You know, not every project is a drone job. Not every job is a GPS system job. You've got to have the right tool for the right job. But when applied correctly, each tool can really shine. You know, I love the RTC. The RTC is an amazing scanner. It's quick, it's accurate, it gathers an immense amount of information extremely quickly. And what HEXAGON and Leica have done with the Field 360 app and some of the improvements they've done on it are amazing. But it's still a line of sight. You still need to set it up on a tripod. You still have shadowing issues in areas to where, as small as it is, it just can't fit. It can't go into, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to be able to overcome those challenges. And so knowing your equipment, knowing what it can do, but also just as important, maybe more important, is knowing what it can't do, knowing what your system can't do. As much as I love the RTC and the P50 is, you know, a long range scanner. It is a leveled scan. You can traverse with it, but it takes a while. You know, if you're doing photos on every setup, you're taking 15-20 minutes for every setup. You know, that's still lightning fast compared to the LiDAR with your drone. Are you using photogrammetry? Okay, what's the accuracy of what you're looking at? What can that be used for? It's been an education of not only our personnel that are utilizing it, but also the end user, talking to the engineers and saying, engineers, okay, just because you have a point cloud, it's from a drone, you have good control, but it's using photogrammetry. So your accuracies are different than if it was a data set. Located with a tool to apply them correctly is vitally important in both your own application.
I don't have here to set the necessarily often with people that are doing recontrol, you know, to develop a proper model and, you know, obtain those accuracies. And like you said, I mean, I think there's certain scanning jobs that don't need to be survey accurate, right? But those that do, again, if you don't know better, you need to bring a surveyor on to set that control so you can constrain all that data properly.
A good example of that would be like a floor flatness project, right?
Oh yeah.
If you have a floor flatness project, most of the time they don't care if it's on data. They don't care.
It's got to be relative.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter if it's off as long as it's flat.
Right. Exactly. I don't care what datum it's. It can be a -100 or a +500. Who cares? As long as it's flat. So yeah, it's a
but do you see a world where that's not a separate project anymore? That's just one thing you get out of a digital twin.
It is definitely, and the world is moving in that direction, especially with the development of a lot of the AI technologies that are coming in. And I'm excited to see in reality capture the use of more and more AI and different things to automate some of these things. But as the time of acquisition starts to become smaller and smaller of, okay, what does the client need? What is that deliverable? Because everything in reality capture and survey as well is deliverable driven, right?
Right.
What is your deliverable? What are they trying to do with it? That's going to dictate the tool you use and what you produce from it. As the time of acquisition starts to get smaller and smaller, that gap becomes smaller and smaller, then the worlds are going to overlap
Yeah.
eventually.
Yeah, and that's what I see. I think it's or it's not even, there's not going to be a conversation on which tool. It's just going to be, here's the minimum amount of data we need to collect on this building, and these are the 17 things we're going to get from it. There's going to be a floor flatness button. You just push the button and it does it. And there's going to be a tilt button and everything else. So, and I guess making that a question, how far do you think we are from where those worlds are colliding, where it's just everything, you're just going to 3D scan everything all the time, and it's
Well,
not going to be separate projects?
I think the conversation maybe needs to go, instead of talking about everything's going to be 3D scan, what if we don't need to actually 3D scan it anymore? What if the scanners are the old technology? On a long enough timeline, you start to look at some of the other AIs that are out there, like your Nerfs or your Gaussian splats, stuff like that, to where they, at this moment where we're sitting right now, it's not a reality capture tool. You can't really use it for what we're talking about for on any of this stuff. But on a long enough timeline, yeah, that's probably going to start to replace a lot of the 3D scanners, to where you're just going to walk through with a camera, put it through an AI system to generate your point clouds, and that's what's going to come out of it. Eventually, on a long enough timeline, I think that all of the technology is eventually going to change.
Right.
And then when that starts to happen, then the professionalism, honestly, and it sucks to say it, but the professionalism of the surveyor, of the field crew chief that needs to know how to use a total station, that needs to know how to use a scanner, that needs to know how to function this stuff, is going to turn into my 9-year-old son walking around with an iPhone.
Right.
It's just taking a video of everything and pumping it through the system.
Or I think they can surgically insert LiDAR sensors into our eyes. And that's going to be like linked to a cloud somewhere. And you just walk around, you're just scanning all day long. Just walking around, scanning.
Remember the movie Prometheus? Did you guys ever see that movie?
Yeah.
It's like the predecessor to Aliens, right?
Oh,
There's a part in that movie, I don't know if you remember, where they release these, they open a box and these drones come flying out. Now they look like spheres, but they're drones essentially. And they work as a swarm hive mind, and they fly around and they generate a 3D map. In the movie, they're generating a 3D map of this structure, but all autonomously from these little drones that are working in a swarm together. I mean, eventually that's going to happen.
And it seems like we're trying to get the LiDAR scans to look more like a picture, when we just can have a picture and figure it out the other way.
True.
You're just going one way or the other, ending up.
One more like project related question. Talk about the importance of like asking clarifying questions in the beginning.
Sure.
So that, again, going back to making sure you're using the right tools and making sure that your client is really asking for what they're asking, and if they really need it.
So I know that in your guys' other podcasts, you kind of go in the more long form versions. You have kind of what's your mantra kind of a deal. That's one of the questions you guys ask.
Oh yeah.
So I have a couple, but we're not on that form of a type of podcast right now. But one of them that I talk about with my team that I'm always driving into them is purpose of the survey. That's one of the things I ask them every single time they bring me a plan, every single time they bring me something to review. One of the first questions I'm driving in is, what is the purpose of the survey? Because at Pannoni, we try to make sure that we're talking to our clients, that we have that conversation with them, knowing not just, there's some guys, I ask them, what's the purpose of the survey? Well, they want a topo plan. Well, no, that's not the purpose. That's not the purpose. That's the topo plan is one step along the way towards their purpose, but what is the purpose? Do they want a building addition? Maybe they need a topo for that. Maybe it's an Alta because they're trying to sell their property for financing. Maybe they're, depending on what the client needs, and truly having that relationship. And that's one of the things that I like about at Pannoni is we try to understand that it's a relationship with our clients, and having that relationship and really understanding their needs and being able to apply the technology and the resources and what is needed to accomplish those needs, more so than if you have somebody that reaches out and says, hey, I want a 3D scan of this building. Okay, let's take a step back.
Oh,
Why do you
I
want
have so many questions.
right? I mean, that just opens up, anytime somebody comes and says, all right, I want a 3D scan and I want a BIM model. Okay, BIM.
Oh,
What
yeah.
LOD level are you talking about?
Yeah.
What are you going to use this BIM model for? What is the purpose of it? Are you going towards an asset management system, or are you just trying to design new water lines to go in? Right. Those are very, very different deliverables.
Yep.
And having that relationship with your clients, having that relationship and understanding the purpose of what they're going to use it for is critical. And once you truly have that understanding, then you can say, okay, based on that understanding, this is a GPS job because I'm just locating manholes through your township. Or this is a scan job because this is confined space and I have to be able to get into that manhole without having confined space entering.
Yeah.
So those are very different deliverables, same similar product of where we're locating manholes, but a different deliverable. So you apply different technology.
You ever think about how like construction projects, there's like specification books like this thick and everything has got some, and then like in some of those, it's like, oh yeah, just go 3D scan it.
Yeah.
Like there should be a book this big about what you actually, I mean, I'm going through that right now where when the job started, we didn't ask those clarifying questions. It was, we need to 3D scan this.
Yeah.
Oh, Rev 5 or something now, just because the end user is like, well, we need it for this other part. Well, if we would have known that,
Yep.
and if you would have told me up front what you're looking for, this would have been done 6 versions ago.
Yeah. Good point. Well, give Pannoni a shout. Sounds like a great company to work for.
I like it. Yeah.
And tell us what's good about it and why you love working there.
So Pannoni, I do love working there. I've been there for 20 years now.
Wow.
Yeah,
Good
it's
for
been
you.
a good long time. I started my surveying career in San Diego, California.
Okay.
My uncle owned an engineering company. He's retired and sold the firm. But during the summers in high school, I worked for my uncle as kind of the third man on a survey crew, the gopher kind of guy.
Yep.
And kind of got the bug at that point. Started my career and then went to another firm in San Diego. Got married to a Philly girl. That's how I wound up out in Philly.
Got it.
Been with Pannoni since 2004, and Pannoni's an ESOP company. It's an employee-owned company, so all of us have that sense of ownership and that sense of pride and wanting to do what we can to help move the ball down the field and do what we can for the firm and to make sure that all of us are doing well with it. And I've loved working for Pannoni because they give that opportunity to people to be able to grow, to be able to move forward, to pursue kind of some of these pursuits. I was a part of the original team that brought scanning to Pannoni in 2006. There were 5 of us at the time. Some have retired, some have moved on to other endeavors and stuff, but I'm the last one of that original 5 still with Pannoni since 2006. And that old HDS 3000, we still have it in a closet by my office, and
that's cool.
Gigantic thing.
Yeah.
And then, I brought drones to the Pannoni in 2008, and Pannoni's been really well. And they like to have they like to say that we want to be on the cutting edge, but not on the bleeding edge. So
it's a good mantra, by the way.
Yeah, it's another one, right? We want to be able to invest in the technologies and invest in the future because we have that innovative kind of look forward, right? That look forward of we want to move the ball down the field. We want to keep going. We want to look at what's next so that we can stay ahead. And we want to encourage the people within the firm, the employee-owned firm, to be able to continue that and pursue that as they want to. So it's been great working for Pannoni.
So cool. So impressed. Super impressive, man. Anything else you want to get out there before we let you go? What are you excited about here at the show?
I'm excited, seeing the robots and stuff during the keynote, the Eon. I want to take a look at that a little bit more.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I got to see that.
Yeah,
I missed that. Yeah,
it's pretty exciting. I'm liking some of the HXDR reality cloud stuff and the partnership with NVIDIA and being able to do some of the visualization. Pannoni, we have taken all of our deliveries nowadays have turned into digital deliveries, right? The days of paper print deliveries have kind of not completely disappeared because there's a lot of municipalities that still need that stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of old school that really still like the paper prints, but a lot of what we do is digital deliveries. So we created at Pannoni the Pannoni Digital Labs. And
Nice.
we've got 3 different sections of that.
That's awesome.
I head up the reality capture group as the first one.
Yeah.
And then we've got our visualization and simulation section. We call it PFX. We don't need FX. And I'm hoping to be able to combine some of the stuff I saw today with the NVIDIA and everything like that, and try to partner with that stuff a little more. So I'm excited to bring that back with me and talk to the team about it. And then that third bucket, that third area, also going into a lot of what we saw with Octave. And is that what it is? It was Octave, I think, during the keynote. Going to asset management is that
Oh, yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
following the life cycle of a project, right?
Yeah.
Capturing it, visualizing it, and then maintaining it in asset
Yeah,
management.
for sure.
So I'm excited to be able to bring some of this stuff back with me. Talk to the team.
Yeah, good stuff.
Awesome.
What else you got, buddy? Anything?
No, I'm good.
Great conversation.
Yeah.
Some amazing conversations today.
So far it's been a phenomenal day.
It really has. It really has. Well, thank you again for your time.
Yeah,
This has
Jason,
been great.
appreciate it. Yep.
Enjoy the rest of the show.
I will.
Thanks.
Thank you guys for having me.
You bet.